Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the West Covina City Council meeting. It's Tuesday, July 19th, 2011. We'll start tonight with our invocation by our city manager, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance from Council Member Sherry Lane. Please rise.
Heavenly Father, boundless in might and righteousness, we look to you in hope and trust, grateful that you are patient and just. Help us to learn your truth and keep our integrity. Teach us your ways and help us understand what is required of you. We ask that you grant us your Holy Spirit to guide our leaders and us each day. Forgive us when we fall short of your glory. We pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Please join us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, City Clerk.
Mayor Chairman Herford.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chairman Toohey. Here. Councilmember Commissioner Armbrust.
Here.
Councilmember Commissioner Lane.
Here.
Councilmember Commissioner Sanderson.
Here.
We were in closed session prior to the meeting and apologize that we're a little bit late getting out, but we did have quite a few items. City Attorney, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, this record should reflect that the City Council and the Community Development Commission did convene its closed session meeting as listed on the notice of a special joint meeting. And at the outset, let me state that it should be noted this special meeting was not adjourned. It was recessed in order to allow for further City Council closed session discussion tonight as items may arise. And this is my report from the closed session thus far. With regard to the first two items, conference labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6 and the various employee organizations listed. The record should reflect there was discussion of this item. There was no final action. This item was not concluded in the discussion, and therefore I have nothing further to report at the time. Council may reconsider that later on this evening. Concerning conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9a, with regard to the case of Irma Herrera versus City of West Covina, record should reflect that all members of the City Council were present. A report was provided by staff. No final action was taken by the Council. Nothing further to report on that item. Regarding the other item, Ricky Montel versus City of West Covina, record should reflect that all members of the Council were present for this item, and the City Council, after receiving a report from staff, directed settlement of this case on the following terms. The City's payment of $65,000 as settlement. In addition, a settlement agreement including a non-admission clause, and such settlement would constitute full settlement of all claims at issue. The vote on that item was approved on a vote of 4-1, with Councilmember Sanderson voting no, and no further action was taken on that item. Concerning the next item, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9b. The record should reflect that there was a briefing provided by staff. All members of the council were present, and no final action was taken on this item. Nothing further to report. With regard to the next item, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9c. Record should reflect that all members of the council were present. A report was provided by staff. Direction was given to staff. However, no final action was taken, and I have nothing further to report on that item. With regard to conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, the record should reflect that all members of the council were present with the exception of Councilmember Toohey and Councilmember Sanderson. A report was provided by staff and direction was provided by those council members present to staff. However, no final action was taken on this item, and I have nothing further to report. Regarding the next item, the assessor parcel number 847400799 item, the record should reflect that all members of the council were present for this item with the exception of Councilmember Sanderson. There was a report provided by staff. However, no final action was taken on this item. Nothing further to report. And finally, the last item concerning the properties with the assessor numbers is listed on the agenda. Record should reflect that all members of the council, with the exception of Councilmember Sanderson, were present for this item. There was a report provided by staff. However, no final action was taken on this item. Nothing further to report. And so at this time, Mr. Mayor, I just note again that the special meeting has not been, special closed session meeting has not been adjourned. We're in recess, and there's the availability to recess back into closed session should that need arise later this evening. And that confirms that completes my report out in closed session.
Thank you, City Attorney. Mr. City Manager, are there any changes to the agenda today?
I have no changes to the agenda.
Okay, we'll move on to presentations. At this time, I'd like to call forward Shannon Yahtzee, our Public Works Director. He has a presentation to make.
Thank you. I'd like to call forward Dan Smith. Dan announced to us a few weeks ago he's accepted a position with MTA as a facilities manager there, so this is really a big loss for the city. Dan's been with us for 12 years of service. I got to say, Dan's one of the hardest working employees here. He's dedicated, he follows through. You know, he's on salary and he comes in without being asked and works evenings and weekends when he has to get the job done. So, Dan, we're really going to miss you. I keep telling him he should write a book because he's seen it all here. People digging a basement under their house with a spoon, people renting out and living in a swimming pool. So, you know, thanks to Dan, he's really helped keep the city clean and keep the property values up. But we're really going to miss him, Dan. Thank you for your 12 years and good luck on your new position. Thank you, Shannon. You want to say it? Say a few words?
Well, I accept this certificate of recognition on behalf of two groups of people. First group being the Public Works Department. Without their support for the last 12 years, Shannon, my immediate supervisor, Long Tang, and the administrative staff, Barbara Briley, Hosanna Reda, Beatrice Marin, Valerie Green Gonzalez, Elizabeth Espinoza, and then your counter staff who screened all the public for me and took the phone messages for me. Summer Huval, Joy Messier, and Tony Leone. And then the second group I'd like to have recognized this evening is my family. A number of them here this evening. My older sister Delia, her daughter and granddaughter, my wife Georgia, my son Daniel, daughter Sarah, my niece Samantha, my mother-in-law Lola, my brother-in-law Steve, his son Ryan, and his wife Karen. Also, as I started to let family members know that I was leaving the city and they were asking me, well, how many years had you been there? I started to realize that a lot of my family members, and I don't know why, but in my family, in my 5 brothers and sisters, I started to calculate the number of years of public service, starting with my number 2 sister, Denise, who's not here this evening. She was a 2-term council member, twice appointed mayor of the city of Moreno Valley. Her husband's the only person I know that worked for all branches of the government. He was a veteran of the Vietnam War for the Air Force. He worked for the state of California, the county of Riverside, which he retired from as a sergeant in the Riverside Sheriff's Department, and he also worked for the city of Moreno Valley. Their only son, James, is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, veteran of the Second Gulf War. Their daughter, their only daughter, Deanne, was a specialist, worked for Senator Dianne Feinstein's office here in the state of California, and her last assignment before moving back east was a special assistant to the mayor of the city of San Bernardino. My third sister, Deidre, her husband is a graduate of Annapolis Naval Academy, 20-year veteran of the Marine Corps, first Gulf War. He currently works for Penn State University, teaches at the Pentagon on a weekly basis. Their only daughter is a librarian researcher at the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. Their middle son, Patrick, just joined the Marine Corps as a first lieutenant. And then my older brother, Dave, has over 35 years with the Social Security Administration here in the state of California. So adding it all together, I'd like this to be recognized as almost 200 years of public service.
Okay, again, thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Dan. All the best. All the best.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to oral communications
Mr. Mayor,
now.
before you do that, can we
Yeah.
have perhaps Michelle McNeil has an announcement she wants to make?
Community Services Director Michelle McNeil.
I wanted to let you know on June 21st, the City Council heard a report from staff regarding a number of projects that we, city may elect to pursue with CDBG funding. And so there was a nice long list, and many of those projects are all centered around either Del Norte Park or Palmview Park, because those are two CDBG eligible areas. And during that council meeting, the staff was directed to try to coordinate some community meetings so we could get input from the residents around those areas. And since there are no August meetings for the City Council, we wanted to let everybody know that we are tentatively slated for community meetings on August 10th and 17th. That will be at Del Norte and then Palmview. So there'll be more information for the public, but if anyone's interested and lives in the area and wants to participate, we want to encourage you to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is the time for residents to speak on items of interest and under the purview of the West Covina City Council. You're allowed 5 minutes to speak. Our first speaker tonight is Forrest Wilkins.
I'd just like to share my compliments on the West Covina Fire Department. In May 21st, our church, which is located at Badillo and Lark Ellen, we had a preparedness fair. And we had two other churches in the community that attended that. Our church is under ideal conditions. Our congregation is made up within a certain geographic boundary. That boundary includes West Covina and Covina. About half of our membership is residents of West Covina. Anyway, we had a preparedness fair, and we had Captain Jim Rudolph gave his presentation, which is the main speaker, but the whole idea was to share with our neighbors the importance of having water, a 72-hour pack, and so forth. And even though that the church is not physically located in the city of West Covina, just across the street, city boundaries, but there was no bureaucratic snafu because we weren't in the city, which is a reflection on the chief and so forth. I just wanted to let the council know that things are going very well, and we appreciate it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Juan Reynoso.
Good evening, council members. As you very well know, the graffiti removal contract went out for bid. I just have a question. My staff attended the bid opening, and there was 2 proposals opened. It was a public bid opening. 2 proposals were opened, and that was it. We now have 3 proposals on the table. So my question is, how does this work? It's a public opening. Legally, it should be opened at the time. So that's just my question. How is it that the city is going about with the bidding process on this project?
Okay, we'll get an answer for you.
One question. One, I just want to double check. Reading your letter, it was you and Timeline that were there at the opening of the bids? How your letter reads, or Maria's letter reads?
Actually, the way it started was there was a pre-bid conference, mandatory pre-bid conference, of which all prospective contractors must attend. 5 contractors attended that pre-bid conference. If you don't attend those conferences, you cannot bid. However, 2 days later, somehow, the city decided to have another pre-bid conference. Unheard of in the industry. In 25 years that I've been doing this, it's unheard of. However, another contractor came in, and by his admission, that pre-bid conference was basically open to give him an opportunity to bid, that being Timeline. Here we are, fast forward to when we went to the proposals. 2 were submitted, 2 were opened, and it was Timeline and our bid. Somehow Superior's bid came in later, and it's now being the one that's being recommended by staff. I just where do bids come from? Just from afterwards.
No problem. I just want to make sure I was reading your letter correctly.
We'll get an answer
Thank
for
you.
you.
Thank you.
We'll move on, and then we'll get the answer at the end. Mark Smith?
Good evening. Good evening. Mark Smith here. I'm from Glendora. You have an item here, ordinance for adoption, and it deals with the reduction of speed from a 40 mile an hour, it's item 2, to a 25 mile an hour. I tried to go onto the webpage, your webpage, and perhaps gather some staff report information, residual background, if you use a warrant study and so forth, to come to the conclusions. And I couldn't even get a hold of get a copy of this agenda, but luckily there was at the door. Thank you for that. I don't know exactly where this area is at in particular, but we in Glendora have been having a problem. We'd like to also reduce our speed limit from a 40 to a 25, but in that particular instance, it's because it's in front of a senior citizen facility, and the state of California allows the city officials to reduce and bring it down to a 25 mile an hour speed limit, which then in turn is classified as a senior citizen facility. We've been stalled for that method, and I was just curious how and where what your justifications are for establishing this. That's my only concern and question, and thank you, and have a good meeting.
Okay, we'll get an answer for that. We'll get it at the end. Okay. Lloyd Johnson?
Good evening, Mayor, Hereford, council members. Tonight I'm here in opposition to our police department's recommendation to award the graffiti contract to Superior, and my reasoning is as follows. I am here in support of the graffiti removal company Timeline Technology over Superior Graffiti and Urban Graffiti. I know what the police department says, but that doesn't mean they are right on this issue. Let's look at the one person who has been doing such a great job for our city with his untiring work on removing graffiti on his own without any pay for it. Without Glenn going over a lot of the walls in the West Covina, I hate to think what all the walls would look like now. We still have some walls that aren't matched. You can tell Glenn didn't do the covering of those walls. If he would have, the walls would all be one color. One thing I don't understand is how the police can say that Timeline Technology provided the city with no documentation demonstrating the quality of their work. Have they forgot who Glenn Kennedy is and what a great job he's been doing for our city? I don't care if Timeline Technology works out of his home. A lot of companies are working from their homes nowadays because of the economy. For example, Tito's Towing works out of his home in West Covina. He does a great job, and he has a contract with AAA. This council shouldn't care if this is a big company. You should care what their priorities are. Will our city be their main concern, their end result, and the cost? Timeline Technology was the lowest bidder. We need to save wherever we can. We have seen the results of the work Glenn has done for our city. It's time for a change. If you look back, Urban Graffiti really did a better job than Superior has done for our city. But this council decided to change companies back then. I hope this council will do the right thing and award the graffiti contract to Timeline Technology. Give them at least a 6-month trial. Let them come back. If they are doing a great job, let them keep the contract for the 3 years. If they can't do the job, there are 2 other contractors you can deal with. One thing this council can be sure of, if you call to have graffiti removed, it will get removed in a very good, timely manner. So I ask you, give Timeline Technology a chance, which Glenn Kennedy will be working for, which he has already proved what a great job he does removing graffiti and matching the walls in our city. Do the right thing and don't agree with the police on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rosette Vargas?
Good evening. I represent the non-SWORD Public Safety Bargaining Group. Since we are at impasse, our group originally asked for the city for a mediator. We have been informed that the City Council has the final word on whether we are allowed a mediator. In reviewing the city budget for the year 2007, there were already signs of an increasing deficit in the amount of $4.8 million. I have before me copies of another resolution passed by City Council. In May of 2007, Council passed a resolution stating that the City Council shall afford all benefits provided to the city's department heads that are deemed appropriate by the government code. These are excellent benefits for part-time employees. In July of 2009, all 5 bargaining groups took the first pay reduction of 3.8%. I have before me a copy of the 4th Amendment to our city mayor's contract dated July of 2009. Our city manager is currently one of the highest paid city managers in the San Gabriel Valley. Under clarification and reaffirmation of applicable benefits, Mr. Pazmat's Me Too clause states, the employee is entitled to and shall receive each, every, and all like benefit or benefits paid, granted, or awarded to each, any, or all city employees, employee groups, or city directors or department heads as allowed by law. This Me Too clause shows our group that City Council is familiar with the concept. So not only is our city manager one of the highest paid in San Gabriel Valley, according to his Me Too clause, he will also receive a 2.5 pay increase in July of this year because it was granted to police. He will receive another 3.5 pay increase in July of 2012 when a second raise goes into effect. In July of 2010, all 5 bargaining groups took their second pay reduction of 5%, and here we are in 2011 at 8%. Our group is not arguing the 8% reduction for the PERS retirement. We are not arguing the pay increases given to sworn personnel. Our argument is in the poor decisions that have been made by the City Council. We are simply asking that you share your generosity with all groups, not a select few. For the past 3 years, not one of the 5 bargaining groups for the City of West Covina has received a pay raise or a cost of living adjustment. In a quote from the July 5th meeting, Councilman Toohey said, "Everyone should carry the exact same weight." Next year, all groups will again negotiate contracts, but with some groups receiving 6% pay raise and others receiving increased benefits, it will never be equal to what our group has already given. We're just not seeing the equality here, and the proof is in the paperwork. When the state decided to take our redevelopment funds to help balance the budget, the Tribune printed another comment from Councilman Toohey. He said, "It is unfair for the state to balance their budget on the backs of the cities. It is also unfair for the cities to balance their budget on the backs of the lower paid employees." Thank you.
Thank you. Rosette Vargas? Cosette. I'm sorry. Cosette. I apologize. Mona Clark?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City staff. Forgive me if I stutter a bit. I'm a bit nervous. It seems that it's possible that our viewpoint during negotiations has not been accurately conveyed to Council within the context or the demeanor that we have participated in the negotiation process. Our group has not asked for a raise, even though it's been 3 years since we've gotten one, either monetary or through perks and benefits. We have not so much as requested the industry standard cost of living raise. We understand and are sympathetic to the economic strain that the city is under and aren't out to inflate our pockets. On the contrary to the picture that has been portrayed of our group to City Council, we have been totally cooperative. After the city's representative presented the city's proposal of 8%, we didn't counter with a no. We didn't haggle or argue. We do have loyalty to our city and pride in our jobs. We do understand that cuts have to be made and budgets need to be balanced. But with that understanding and loyalty, we don't want to see the burden shifted only to the bottom. We desire unity across the board, from the top to the bottom and every position in between. Just as it is not fair for the state to continue making individual cities their Band-Aids and pull from municipal funds, it additionally is not fair to have management count on their bottom line support personnel as the first place that they cut from. We've been taking cuts of 5% for the past 3 years. However, we are now feeling we aren't being dealt a fair hand. The one significant factor I'm talking about is the Me Too clause. In 2008, the city made several reorganization decisions, and yet there is still too much fat to be taken off. The widespread perception is that there are others in the city structure that can make more sacrifices but are not doing so. Auto allowances of $300 a month can be terminated whether it's council or management. Use your personal vehicle. Why do we need a city manager, an assistant city manager, and a deputy city manager? Why are there survivor benefits of up to $2,280 for spouses upon death of a council member? We work here and don't even get that. Also, the city is still hiring cadets. Sure, no benefits, but why hire new employees to take our jobs? A full-time jailer position was already taken over by cadets. $300 per month to a deferred compensation plan. The city pays $108 per month toward the retiree medical plan for council. They pay $75 for us full-time employees. Why is there not full disclosure regarding pay for all employees within the city? The city website only posts the salaries of management as of 2008. It stated no changes to salary ranges as of 7/1/2010, but also doesn't mention what raises and when they were or are able to be obtained. I can go on with other examples, but I think you understand our view. We are asking for the Me Too clause in our package, especially since we've had that clause in the past. If a group or individual is getting a perk, then by all means we should too. We aren't talking about other groups in an active signed contract. We fully understand that it is what it is. If the city is really in dire straits and not hiding a perk here or there, then what is the harm of putting that clause into our contract? You have the power to insert that language if you want to. We don't appreciate that the lowest paid employees keep getting stepped on, yet not enough sacrifices are being made at the top, including council, to make these cuts of benefits straight across the board. Last year, the city manager stated that council refused us a mediator. Council imposed their wishes. It might happen again, but at least you really know where we stand and how we feel. I hope some people have the courage to make a stand and say, no, I really don't need that perk, especially if you are getting it from your place of full employment, and it will benefit the city of West Covina. And tell us, so that our perception isn't as it seems. Each time our group has asked to see cuts made by the city, we are ignored. There is no transparency to where all the monies are going, and it should be an open book. The employees of this group have negotiated in good faith with transparency and forthrightness. We are asking that the city reciprocate and bestow the same respect upon us. We are all working for the same outcome, the best West Covina. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Sylvia Luna.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I also represent the non-sworn public safety group, and I would like to comment on the retirement health issues facing employees upon retiring from the city. The non-sworn safety group is currently enrolled in a retirement health program where the city contributes $75 per month and the employee contributes $25 per month towards what is referred to as a gap insurance. The purpose of this provision is to allow an employee upon retirement funds toward their health insurance premiums until they reach an age where Medicare would kick in. In Article 1, Section 8 of the department head's contract under Supplemental Retirement Plan, any department head who has given the city 5 years of service will receive a retiree medical benefit of $550 per month. In an amendment to our city manager's contract under retirement medical, it states he is to receive equal to the highest offered to any employee, or $800, whichever is greater, with the 5% annual increases post-retirement. This is per month. In a resolution dated September 2007, Section 1, it states, the City Council shall be afforded all benefits provided to the city's department heads that are deemed appropriate by the government code. This means any City Council member who gives the city 5 years of service will receive a lifetime benefit with no less than $776 per month towards medical benefits. In clarification, this means that, and speaking for others who have been here at least 30 years, other employees with the City of West Covina, they will receive approximately 18 months of funds to pay for medical insurance upon retirement, while part-time council members with no more than 5 years of service will receive lifetime medical. I don't understand. Where is the inequality for the employees? How are groups going to carry the same exact weight with so many lopsided benefit packages? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Liz Romero.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm here on behalf of my brothers and sisters of the Non-Sworn Safety Support Unit. We, as a group, are well aware of the financial issues affecting not only the city of West Covina, but pretty much throughout the world. We see it in the rising costs from food to gasoline, and it's very noticeable when we pay our bills, which have increased, but with salaries that have decreased. We are not here opposing budget cuts. We know they're inevitable. We accept the fact that we'll be paying 8% of our salaries toward PERS. We know it's a done deal. At the last meeting, I listened to Mr. Bachman recite this long list of concessions the city was making towards bargaining groups. With all the superfluous words, it sounded like quite a lot, but when you get down to it, the city isn't giving any concessions, pretty much taking what you want and throwing a bone, such as 30 hours of comp time for holiday closure. City Hall will be closed whether employees receive the comp time or not. It's not the employee's choice to take the time off. As an employee who has been with the city for over 30 years, it's not only disheartening but insulting to know that those who make the decisions make them with one-sided versions of what the city wants you to hear because you have already made up your minds on how you will vote. You have not heard what we have to say. As a full-time employee with over 30 years of service, I don't get a car allowance. I pay for my own gas, insurance, and maintenance of my own car. The life insurance benefit, which is only valid while I'm still employed, will barely pay for a funeral with nothing left to take care of my family. I have to pay for additional insurance. The city doesn't put extra money in a deferred compensation plan for me. When I retire, I won't be receiving a supplemental retirement check. When I reach retirement age, I have 3 options: try to live off a small pension, find other work somewhere else, or continue working until I die here. The bottom line is, let's save the city money off the backs of those who make the least. What we are opposing is the city's total disregard for any fairness or honesty. You tell us there will be no increase to benefits or salaries except to those already under contract. Okay, then what is the harm would do to put a Me Too clause? We are well aware of that any increase of benefits or salaries to other groups already under contract would not apply at this time. We're only concerned with future benefits or salary increase to any group or individual. If the city is being honest and fair, then the Me Too clause shouldn't be of any consequence. And it would help assure the employees and lift their morale. Why not put it in? The other issue is we're asking for 50 hours of comp time. You created a distinct separation of groups when you gave other groups 104 hours last year while we received 50. You say it's because we backfill with overtime. We looked at the last year and found very few incidents of backfilling with overtime. Our department, like other departments, have had to cut back, and that's one of the areas. We may not have the high level of safety concerns of police or fire, but we're right behind them. We're here 24/7, including holidays. While other groups can close and lock their doors at 5 p.m., we're open 24 hours. We never know who's walking in the lobby of the police department at 3 o'clock in the morning. We don't know whose house we're walking into when we go to take a crime report. We don't know if the person whose car we're having towed is going to get violent. Is this person we are searching going to cooperate or fight? We deal with people in situations every day that most people never will nor would want to. We're not asking for anything more than what we feel we deserve. We read every day of other cities where there's corruption, outrageous salaries, and the public outcry that all city employees are raking in the big bucks in retirement, and it angers us. What big bucks? When I retire, I will have almost 40 years of service to this city. Yet my retirement check, as well as other members of our group, will be far less than what some pay taxes on their check. When you compare the benefits of the council to most employees who will retire after having given more than 30 years of full-time service to the city of West Covina, the 2 issues of the Me Too clause and the 50 hours of comp time doesn't seem like too much to ask for. We're only asking for support and fairness. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Poirier.
Good evening, Mayor Herford and council members. My name is Jan Poirier, and I'm president of the Public Safety Employees Group. I'm here tonight to speak to you about our disgust in being unable to come to an agreement in the meet and confer process. We have been in an impasse situation with the city for the past 2 years. I would like to give you a little background as to how this came about. When the economy changed so drastically in 2006, representatives from all the employee groups were asked to meet with Mr. Pazman and Mr. Bachman so that the employee groups would get a better understanding of the impending economic crisis that the city was facing. After meeting with Mr. Pazman and Mr. Bachman, employees in our group made every effort to come up with ideas that would benefit the city in cutting costs. These ideas were presented to Mr. Pasman and Mr. Bachman. We were told that nothing was too far outside the box. Basically, many of the ideas we came up with were scoffed at by the city management team because we posed questions as to why non-public safety department heads all utilize city vehicles as their method of transportation to and from work. We were told that it was a benefit that was afforded to department heads. This issue was brought up several more times for naught. At the onset of our 2011 negotiations, we again brought up this issue and were told currently only one department had opted to utilize a city vehicle in this manner. Shortly after, we learned that department heads who opted to give up taking their vehicles home were given a $300 a month car allowance. We realized this would be something that is part of a management package that they would be giving up. But as people who make much, much less money than department heads, we have given up pay and benefits that we negotiated for in the past years. We were also told if this benefit was terminated, the cost savings of this benefit would be just a drop in the bucket. My question to you is, our city leaders, is how many drops does it take to fill the bucket? After many years of being on the Meet and Confer team as both a dispatcher and a community service officer, I have always entered the Meet and Confer process with the expectation of both sides being reasonable. In creating proposals, our goal has always been to ask for what is fair. We met with the city negotiating team on February 22nd, 2011. The city negotiating team started the first meeting with a proposal from the city rather than taking a proposal from our employee group. Typically in the past, the association has been asked to present proposals first. We diligently went over the city's proposals and asked questions to understand the city's position. Basically, we were told that the city was going to reinstate the 5% decrease in cash and benefits that were forcibly taken from us in 2010. The city was, however, asking employees to contribute the entire 8% employee portion of their PERS. Other benefits were also going to be decreased under the city's proposal tests, such as the lump sum payout of leave benefits would no longer be grossed up to be paid to the employees who participate in the annual buyback programs. After discussing the city's proposals with the negotiating team, the representatives from our association met with members of our group. Knowing that the city is in dire straits, we presented the city's proposals to our group with the suggestion that we do our best to meet the city's needs. After much discussion, members of our group agreed to most of the city's proposals with the exception of the RHS program. The city had asked us to contribute $50 to this program, and we asked that the contribution remain at $25 that we had paid prior to the 2010 adjustment of benefits. Since we felt like, as a group, we went out of our way to make concessions to help the city in its endeavors to cut back, we asked to be compensated with 50 hours of comp time. Last year, we were given 50 hours of comp time. Employees from every other bargaining unit in the city, with the exception of police and fire, who were already under contract, received 104 hours of comp time. We were told that the other employee groups were given the extra 54 hours because City Hall was going to be closed for a week between Christmas and New Year's. 40 hours of the 104 of that comp time would be mandated to be used during the holiday week. This still gave the employees 64 hours to be used as they deemed necessary. We took the same amount of money and benefit cuts that these employees took, yet they were compensated at a higher rate. We were told this happened because our positions in the police department required backfill at time and a half. I did an exclusive study on how often positions were backfilled when employees used their comp time and what the cost of the city was. The positions backfilled were less than 30% of the time, and the cost of the city was minimal. Ultimately, the city's negotiating team offered to give us 30 hours of comp time for this year because the December 25th holiday will be celebrated as a legal holiday on December 26th, this year causing employees of the other units to use only 30 hours of comp time during this time frame.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, the speaker
It's okay. We'll let her finish. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. The second request made by this unit was to have a Me Too clause in our contract. The terminology that we asked to be used was that should any other bargaining group or individual receive benefits and wages, benefits, PERS contributions, or deferred compensation benefits, that members of our unit would receive the same. The city negotiating team immediately denied this benefit. I then posed the question to Mr. Brockman that if the city manager was on the up and up with all employees, then the management would not mind having the clause in the contract. The proposal was vehemently denied by the city negotiating team. So basically, where we are now with this going to impasse, the city negotiating team has opted to take this process to impasse because of two reasons. The main one is the failure to include the Me Too clause in a contract, which keeps everybody honest, and the 20 hours of compensation time on the books that other employees received in the past when we did not. We felt that throughout the process, the city's negotiating team has done their best to cause a division among the employee groups. We have also felt throughout this tedious process that you, the council, were not getting all of the information from the city negotiating team. It seems as if when we made a proposal, it was immediately shot down without conferring with you. The decision of what we asked for the decisions of what we asked for were immediately made by Mr. Bachman without consultation of council members. After making valiant efforts to meet and confer in good faith, nothing changed. This is another concession. The RHS changed. The rate was lower to the $25 that we requested, but it was our money that we're putting in. This was the only concession that was made. During the meet and confer process, a budget was formulated and signed before the meet and confer process ended. Is this fair bargaining? I don't think so. It just proves that your minds were made up before we entered the meet and confer process. Perhaps this is why we were denied a mediator. Because positions have been frozen, all employees are doing more work for less money. Employees in this unit do their jobs diligently, without complaint, on a daily basis, with honesty, integrity, and professionalism. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Frederick Sykes.
Issue?
Yeah, you would want to speak on that now.
I can speak on it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. I'm a little bit reluctant to speak tonight. The employees, they're suffering. Our city, the residents, they're suffering with this economic downturn. It's a tough situation. And I'm glad I'm not in you guys' position right now, because it's a lot of responsibility and a lot of issues to try to work through. Nevertheless, the issue that I'm going to speak on regarding the graffiti, it also affects the residents. And first of all, hands down, when you look at the history of the graffiti situation, from my perspective, I was up close and personal with it, starting in 2006. And at that time, Urban Graffiti was on board, and they had a very high standard, and their standard surpasses what we've been using since we've ended the contract with Urban Graffiti. We have had a downturn in the service, and I'll give you some stark examples. First of all, I'm sure that at least one of you, if not all, are familiar with Giano Intermediate School. I have brought it to your attention in the past, and I'm here to remind you again that the problem I talked about years ago is still there as we speak. Inside that school, these intermediate school age children are exposed to this garish graffiti that overlooks them every day they come to school. There's a high wall on the west side. It acts pretty much like a projector. Not only does it overlook the campus and project this type of element over the campus, but it's into the community. And you see it from the rear yards of the homes, and you also see it from some of the front windows and front doors of these homeowners. And it's very tough on some of the salespeople. If you talk to them, and they'll tell you, yes, we can see it. There's certain streets that is right there Bradmore, and Stratford. I think that's what the streets are. I'm sorry, Brookfield and Strathmore, Gemini, Kimberly Drive. Those homes can clearly see this graffiti that goes from along Wednesday, Tuesday, along the Kimberly Wall, that where it intersects with Gemini, and it goes to the rear of these homes all the way to Temple. And a lot of that is there now. It's in the contract that it should be checked weekly, some of these items. However, we have overlooked this wall. I don't see the wall above the school. And I understand from your last response that because the address on the front of the building over the school is in La Puente and Belinda areas, that we feel is not our responsibility. The residents that live in that area don't have a choice. They have to live with it. And again, I urge you to please go and take a little tour of these streets, and you can see the graffiti. If you have any inability to see it, just give me a call. My number's on the card, and I will come out and meet you and show you exactly where it's at. Regarding the subpar and unprofessional type of service that we get, you can just take a look at our primary light poles. They have a finish, a sort of a marbled cement finish. I haven't gone to every area of the city, but on the south side of the city, when you see these poles, half of the pole is in some sort of gray or light or different colors of halfway of the pole, or at least as tall as I am, to where it's been defaced. So that needs to be corrected. You can do it with power wash or steam cleaning. And then finally, the block walls. On the major streets, they should not look like a patchwork. On the major streets, they should be uniform. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tui.
On some of that, Fred, and especially since the employees are here and arguing your issues, and I understand, the wall that's in question on Giano is actually, for the most part, in the county of Los Angeles, and I still feel it's very unconscionable as we're having to deal with our employee situations and our numbers to be spending our dollars in the county of Los Angeles to do their work. To me, is unconscionable. And I understand our residents see it. Anytime our community abuts another community or a county area, there could be issues like that, but I don't think we can afford, Fred, to start doing all the code enforcement and all the maintenance for the county of Los Angeles or our neighboring cities where they're not doing their job. All we can do is pass on the message. And we have had a lot of conversations with Gloria Molina, Supervisor Molina, on that area. Some of the area that you're referring to, the police department deemed it unsafe for our contractor to go down, that he would be putting his life in his own at risk. And in fairness, you being a former law enforcement officer, I think you should give some credibility to that, because most of the county cars have 2 people in them, not all. But I'm saying it's a little bit different. If the county issued a warning, it's not safe to go down and do something, I find it hard to believe you would be forcing someone to go down in an unsafe situation and possibly put their life in danger. That has been addressed, and you've been given memos on that. Number one, that it's for the most part county area, and they do see it from the city of West Covina, but it's in Los Angeles County. And number 2, and a lot of it's over by the mobile home park on Temple and Azusa, the wall that runs along the back of the mobile home park, which is in the county of Los Angeles. It's not in our city. We also, this can't go on property outside of our jurisdiction without approvals, and I don't know if we should, again, be spending our money. They have their own contractors, graffiti contractors, that are being compensated for taking care of the county area, and I think we should hold whoever that contractor is responsible for their area, not us, but the supervisor who controls that area, and that's Gloria Molina. But We are trying our best, but I think with limited resources, we can't start doing cleanup and code enforcement work in neighboring jurisdictions, even though I know it impacts us, and you can look at some of our streets sometimes, over by where Sylvia lives, on Orange Avenue, half is county, half is city, going from Puente to San Bernardino, or not San Bernardino, but Badillo. Sometimes when you do paving, and it looks bad on government, only one side gets paved, because the other side is not the other person's responsibility or jurisdiction. And we just can't say, well, we're going to go ahead and spend the extra $50,000 of West Covina taxpayers' dollars and go ahead and asphalt the County of Los Angeles' property. Then we have to do additional cuts. You guys would still be coming up here saying that that's wrong. We can't have it all ways on all sides. We can only take care of our people as best as possible and our property within our jurisdiction. And I feel sorry for what people have to see, but I think we need to hold the governmental agencies that can govern those areas responsible for that. And I do feel sorry, Fred, for the Giano residents that have to face that. But again, we had the situation tonight. We just had to settle a case where the County of Los Angeles called us to help them, and we got into a problem, and we defended and protected our police officers, but it cost us money. And we were called into the situation where they didn't do all their stuff properly, and we got screwed as a taxpayer. Our people, our taxpayers, will put in liability, and we're having to step up and take care of the situation for the situation we were placed in by a governmental children's service that didn't follow their regular procedures.
Okay, Vicki Shalega.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm here to talk about the yearly National Night Out Against Crime. It's coming up. 28th annual is Tuesday, August 2nd, and we cordially invite you and the community to attend someone's function. Last year's National Night Out campaign involved citizens, law enforcement agencies, civic groups, businesses, neighborhood organizations, and local officials from over 15,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, Canadian cities, and military bases worldwide. In all, 37 million people participated in National Night Out 2010. National Night Out is designed to heighten crime and drug prevention awareness, generate support and participation in local anti-crime programs, strengthen neighborhood spirit and police community partnerships, and send a message to criminals letting them know that neighborhoods are organized and fighting back. A lot of display of outdoor lights and front porch vigils. Cities, towns, neighborhoods celebrate National Night Out with block parties, cookouts, visits from local police and sheriffs, parades, exhibits, flashlight walks, contests, youth groups. I give one at my house every year, and you're invited to that. My event starts at 5:30 at night. If you don't attend mine, please attend somebody's. It shows that you are helping the community, and I've already checked, and yes, you are dark that night as a service to National Night Out. Thank you.
Thank you. George Ogden.
My name is George Ogden. I live in the city of West Covina. And just touching on Vicky's event here, I've attended quite often. There's plenty of good food there, trust me. Anyway, what I'd like to talk to you about a little bit is you've already touched on Molina being involved here in the city council meeting tonight. I'm pretty sure you're aware of the fact that they're redistricting the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors' districts in the areas in which they'll be covering. I've come across the fact that Gloria Molina will now, most likely, the proposal is actually be covering all of West Covina. I'm not sure what the position of our staff and city council is on this, and that's probably why I'm up here. That is why I'm up here, because I'd really like to find out. And I'd like to offer my opinion if the boundaries do get approved. And with Mike Antonovich handling our area for such a long time, him and his staff are very much aware of the needs of our city. And with Mike getting close to terming out and retiring, I don't understand why we cannot wait until Mike does depart from the County Board of Supervisors, and at that time move the boundaries for Molina to take over. And so I guess I'm kind of questioning whether or not the council and the staff is in support of the moving of the boundaries, and if it would be probably beneficial to us to wait for the retirement of Mike Antonovich from his 5th District position and then move the boundaries at that time. That's what I'm here for. So,
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, that concludes oral communications for tonight. We'll start with the graffiti bid. If we could have somebody from the police department come forward. This is item 7 on the consent calendar, and there was a question about the bid process on the opening of the bids. No, we'll answer these questions.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Sergeant Allen. I'm the outgoing graffiti abatement team supervisor for the police department. I'd like to review the graffiti removal service contract and the 3 bids that we received.
Okay, let's do this before you start. We might as well jump to item 7 on the agenda because it's probably going to come up anyway. So if you want to give a staff report and then answer that question, that'd be great.
Sure. As you know, the graffiti removal service contract expired on December 31st, 2009. Recently, in conjunction with Finance, they submitted requests for proposals to 18 different contractors. Ultimately, 3 bids were received, and in order of cost, I'll cover each of the bidders. Timeline Technology was the lowest bidder. The bid amount was on a per-site basis with the cost split between public property at $8.90 per site, not to exceed $8,890 per month, and private property at $13 per site, not to exceed $945. Total cost would be $9,835 per month, or $118,020 per year. In terms of cost, Timeline Technology was the lowest. However, there were some concerns with this bid. Unfortunately, Timeline Technology provided no documentation demonstrating the quality of their work or any references with which to evaluate their business history and experience as required in the RFP. In an effort to do due diligence, we conducted a database search as well as contacted the city of Chino, where the business address was, and spoke with their city staff. And according to their city staff, there was an expired DBA on record, but other than that, there was, at that time, no business license or anything else. While Timeline Technology may ultimately prove to be a capable company, there is insufficient information provided to the staff to verify the company's ability to handle a contract this size. Next in line was Superior Property Services, who was also the current graffiti abatement contractor. Again, their cost for public was $8.90 per site, not to exceed $9,490 per month. For public property, and for private property, it was $13.75 per site, not to exceed $900 per month. Total cost would be $10,390, not to exceed $124,680 per year. In terms of cost, they were second in line to Timeline Technology. They did submit a comprehensive bid that clearly met all the job specifications as outlined in the request for proposal. City staff has over 4 years of positive working experience with Superior Property Services, and their abilities and qualifications have been demonstrated by the work that they have accomplished. They also had impressive references from city and county governments from both Los Angeles, San Bernardino, as well as Orange County, and they do provide services for several cities. Lastly, and the most expensive bid was Urban Graffiti Enterprises. Again, their bid was a per-site basis. For public property, it was $11.50 per site, not to exceed $12,000. And private property was $12 per site, not to exceed the original $12,000 as listed. So it would be $12,000 per month and a total of $144,000 per year. Urban Graffiti Enterprises also submitted a very comprehensive bid, labeling all their qualifications as well as recommendations. And although we think that they could handle the contract if they were awarded it, the police department at the time did not handle the particular contract when they were the prior contractor handling the graffiti removal. It was under the environmental services under Steve Salmonego. And at the time I had some conversations with him, and he mentioned to me that handling the contract was difficult at times, but he did reiterate the fact that they could handle the contract. Ultimately, the police department recommends that the City Council accept the bid of Superior Property Services, Vic Rivera, for comprehensive graffiti abatement services for a 3-year contract for an amount not to exceed $10,390 per month, $124,680 per year. As an alternate, we are sensitive to the fact that we do have limited fiscal resources. The city could accept a bid from Timeline Technologies, who was the lowest bidder, for an amount not to exceed $9,835 per month. But we would request that a 6-month review and report to council be made to ensure that they are handling the contract properly.
There was a letter that was given to all the council. Did you get a copy of that?
I did not, sir.
That was what the speaker was referring to. I'll read it to you. On July 5th at 11 a.m., I attended the public opening of the graffiti removal proposals, for which you opened and read results. After opening and read off 2 and only 2 proposals, one from Timeline and one from our company, you stated that that's it. If I asked if that's what all the proposals, and you reconfirmed. I guess I noticed that city staff is recommending Superior Property Services. When did Superior Property Services submit their proposal, signed by Maria Gutierrez of Urban Graffiti?
Unfortunately, Superior did submit their contract at 11 o'clock on the bid opening day. The problem was they left it at the front desk at the police department and not at the finance department as they were instructed. However, in an interest of fairness and a misunderstanding based on their part, we were able to get the package up to finance. Unfortunately, it was after that. We felt in the interest of justice that would be we would be willing to accept their bid.
Okay, that explains that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, council, any discussion on this? Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, I have. I don't disagree. I have a lot of concerns over the overall process, and there's some comments in there. Whoever wrote the staff report, that we have to be careful as a city when the way it's written, and there's 2 reports like this tonight. It only talks about really if you're a big business. 98% of the businesses in our city are sole proprietorships, and if you read the report, they're treated as a second-class citizen because they're not a corporation registered with the state of California like a limited partnership or a limited liability corporation. That's very unfortunate if you understand the difference between the two. And there is no difference in a business model. The big difference between a limited liability corporation and a limited liability partnership is they can go bankrupt, but the individual is not liable. Now, some people may deem that a better system over a sole proprietorship where if they make a mistake, their personal assets are on the line and they're liable for everything and they risk everything. So I guess when you've never been in business, it's an interesting way to almost insult 98% of our business ventures that sole proprietors are less than whole or not adequate or appropriate businesses. And if that is the case, then the city and the finance department should not charge business licenses for those inferior businesses, since they're not qualified. And you did not put that in the RFP that you must be a corporation. That to me is highly insulting, like I said, to me who's owned mostly sole proprietorships most of my life, and that is said about someone. Second of all, saying someone works out of their home. Well, most of our general contractors in our city operate from their home. So to say that's inferior because you don't have someone who answers phones, most of the people that at least I have employed or see, they're normally at work and they return the phone calls either if it bounces to their cell phone or after they get back home from work and they return their calls. But to ridicule somebody because they're not a giant business, that would come from a governmental agency where they're not used to having to pay the overhead and to pay the operational cost of having operations. It is different being self-employed in that situation where you have to pay for everything and where everything you do, the taxpayers pay for. And all of our employees that are here tonight, you go to cabinets and pull paperwork, paper, pens, whatever. Someone else bought that. You treat it as best as possible, but it's not the same when it's yours and you have to make it. It's totally different. I understand the cuts people are doing, but to me, that report was highly insulting. The way it really talked about that aspect, that someone isn't qualified. The one employee and the brother of the contractor that has made the one bid that was said about has been doing all the volunteer work. So I understand clearly what was said. Someone is good enough to work for free for you, but God forbid if they may want to get paid to work for you. That, again, is insulting to volunteers. And again, when you're on the one side getting paid and the person next to you helping out doing the painting is not, and then you say that person, and you know that's his brother, isn't qualified to paint, well, you should have made that rendering when he was volunteering all his weekends. You should have said, you're terrible, go home. We don't want your free service to make up for what's not being done by the contractor. And it's being done when both people were here. And I mean, all the contractors are doing their best, and I know we have had our differences with urban graffiti. Superior has some same issues, and I mean, we heard the different things. Lloyd actually spoke higher of urban graffiti than Superior. They're all contractors trying to make it, but I just want to make sure that one part, to me, bothered me that is the way they were being judged, and I would support what we should, look at as a small business and also the lowest bidder. And I would support Timeline Technology for the contract.
Councilwoman Armbrust.
I would like to take the recommendation of also Lloyd Johnson and the sergeant that Timeline's going to save approximately about $6,000 being the lowest bid. And if they want to have a 6-month contract, then I'm in favor of that.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilwoman Lane.
I just want to say, in our economic environment that we're going through right now, I think we should go with the lowest responsible bidder. And staff has given their approval for the alternative on that, and I don't see any problem with that. I think they have the appropriate license, and I'll support that.
Okay. Any other comments? Let me just say that the real key to this program, in my mind, is when the police department took over. There was a drastic change in the amount of graffiti that was cleaned up, and they're on top of it. I don't know if everybody knows what they do, but they basically have a graffiti tracker camera that takes a picture of every piece of graffiti in the city, and they're able to track who the individuals are by their logos and tags. And if they get enough of those, they go after the person with some heat, and we've made numerous arrests with the police department. So that's the real key here. Any contractor we select has got to perform. I believe there's a 30-day period when we can terminate a contract if they're not performing. So the key here is that person's got to hop to it. And I think that anything we look at here, I think they're all capable companies, but I think the real key is the police department running the operation, and I don't want to see that diminished. So with that, do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion, but also I want to make sure if the bidder does not perform, that to make sure we work with whoever the other bidders are, that they absorb that contract.
I'll second.
If you know what I mean, the lower contracts. So we're still saving the money.
Okay. we have a motion to, once the contract's awarded, to, if there's a non-performance, I guess, by the contractor, that the lower bidder, I mean, that's kind of hard to do. You'd probably have to come back and rebid it.
Whatever.
I don't know if that's,
That's fine.
are we going to do
We'll
a
just do the
6-month review?
That's fine.
Okay, so what is the motion here to go
Make a
with,
motion to approve Timeline Technology.
with the police department's recommendation for a 6-month review?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion by Tui, second.
Second.
Second by Lane. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, item 2 was another question on the speed limit. So let's pull item 2.
Shan.
Yeah, thank you. This is the second reading for an ordinance. It went through our traffic committee and the introduction of the ordinance 2 weeks ago. The street meets the state requirements for width and length and the number of homes along it, and therefore it can be classified without a traffic study as a residential street and given a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. If Mr. Mark Smith has other questions on that, I'd feel happy to meet with him later and discuss that.
I think the key language there is the state. They govern this basically, right?
Yeah, we're following the vehicle code guidelines.
All right. Do we have a motion to, well, actually, we can adopt that with the rest unless there's any questions on it.
Poll number 11.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion to approve everything else but
Okay.
number 11.
Number 11 is pulled, and we have a motion and a second to approve all the rest of the items on the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 11.
Based on time, I don't mind waiting for 11 and hearing taking the employees' issues down.
Oh, you mean bring that back later?
No, I mean, yeah, later on tonight, but to go ahead and deal with the public employees' issues.
Okay, then we'll move, we'll hold that item and move on to the
number 14.
City Manager Office number 13, designation of voting delegate. Is anybody going to a conference of the League of Cities? Is this up in San Francisco? Hey,
Motion to move Steve Herford.
No, I'm not going, so, no. If there's nobody, if anybody does decide to go, let's bring this item back. Otherwise, we won't have a representative there, so, okay. I don't think, can a staff person do it? Is there anybody from staff that's going to be going?
City Council can appoint someone from staff to attend and be the voting delegate if they wish.
Is there anybody from staff that you know is going? Okay. Then,
Not aware of anyone going.
then we'll just leave that alone unless somebody decides to go. Okay, Human Resources, this is the meet and confer process. This is the time that has been set aside for the discussion of the agenda item number 12. Actually, this is agenda item 14, I believe. Okay.
12 was on the consent calendar. Item 14.
This is item 14. Meet and confer process impasse between the non-sworn safety support and General Employees Association. There will first be the presentation of the staff report. At the conclusion of the staff report, the labor representative from the non-sworn safety support and General Employees Association will be able to present any additional pertinent information for the City Council's consideration. At the conclusion of any additional comments, City staff will have the opportunity to respond to the additional information presented by the two labor associations. Mr. Pasman, who will present the staff report?
Mr. Bachman will present that report, but I would like an opportunity at some point in time tonight to address some of the questions that were raised by the employees.
Okay, right after Mr. Bachman.
Oh, thank you. Good evening. Even though the economy has slowly been turning around, the costs are increasing over the next 3 years, mostly in the area of pensions. It's been very well documented. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of analysis over what's going on in that area. In the case of miscellaneous employee pension costs are projected to increase by 10% of pay over that period. That translates into $1.4 million per year that we're going to see. These rising costs will lead to continuing budget deficits. The growing deficits will result in lower staffing levels and reduced services. In an effort to mitigate the impact on services and the community, the city focused its negotiations on ways to offset the rising pension costs, controlling employee leave programs and discontinuing the furloughs, and limiting programs that caused administrative burdens on an already reduced staff. While attempting to address the city's short-term cash flow needs, the goal of negotiations was also to implement long-term strategies that address some of the structural issues contained in the city's budget while preserving employee jobs and benefits to the extent possible. The city has been negotiating with the general and non-sworn safety groups for the last several months. The main goal of the city's negotiation was to have the employees pay the 8% employee pension contribution. During the negotiations, the city added some things to the proposals to try to soften the blow of the concessions the city was seeking from the employees, including staggering the implementation of that employees picking up the pension contribution, pushing back the implementation dates on the modifications of the leave plans, and offering 30 hours of comp time over the holidays. While the city had tentative agreement on a number of the items that were being proposed, they could not come to agreement on some others. Ultimately, the city presented the units with the last best and final offers, which were rejected by both groups. The city then declared impasse in negotiations, which was followed up with two letters from the units requesting mediation. While there are specific items where the city and the units did not agree, the main issues of impasse are related to equity and have all employees share in the burden of compensation reductions to help address the city's budget deficit. Both units have a very good understanding of the financial challenges that are facing the city and have all expressed a willingness to be part of the solution. In fact, both units have been part of the solution for the last 2 years by taking pay cuts during that time. The main issue now is that employees are being asked for a third year to take compensation reduction while public safety units are receiving raises and benefit increases. The miscellaneous units are also aware that public safety contracts do not expire until June 30, 2012, and have asked for a Me Too clause with all safety and miscellaneous units so that all employees in the city share the same burden equally of rising pension costs. The city's response to this request was that with a one-year contract, this Me Too request would fall outside the contract term, and the equity issue is something that could be better addressed next year when all units are up for negotiation. The council has a number of options tonight, although staff is recommending that the city impose the last best and final offer. That concludes my comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions of Mr. Bachman? Okay, City Manager Pazman, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to respond to some of the comments that were made, and I want to make sure that the public is aware that, as the council is, that West Covina has been operating with the lowest ratio of staff, and as a result, for populations over 100,000, and the populace is actually getting a very good deal for the money that is being spent in this community. There is no argument that the employees are assuming extra duties, as you well know, during the presentations that were made to council. But our budget situation has to be sustainable, otherwise we are going to run into a problem of having to face layoffs in the future. I met with the employees, I believe about 3 years ago, and we raised the issue with the employees whether we want to focus on layoffs or cutting services and packages in the past over how we would balance this budget. And employees did step up to the plate and say we do want to protect jobs, and that's what we've been doing all along. As you well know, we've been trying to avoid layoffs. But what is out of our control is what the state does. As the state starts to take monies and divert funds from the city, it does affect all of us. There were comments that management has not been taking cuts. We have been consolidating positions, as the council is well aware. Department heads have voluntarily taken cuts at the equivalent level of what the miscellaneous employees have done. The City Council has also taken cuts, even though you may not advertise it. We all know that you have taken cuts as well, and you are sharing in the pain with the employees. I have also taken cuts, and I have not taken any increases, despite what has been said tonight. Our issue is, again, trying to keep maintain a budget that is sustainable over the long haul for the city, avoid the layoffs, but also trying to keep it fair and equitable for everybody. And I think it is a balancing act for all of us to try to do that.
Thank you. I just want to make it clear, somebody said that you had taken a 3% pay raise just like police were getting this year. And And that's incorrect?
That's incorrect.
Okay. How much of a pay cut did you take this year?
I'll be taking the same thing, 8% along with the employees.
And, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Tui.
last year it was the pay cut plus you had to take a week off. You were not given furlough days, correct?
That is correct.
So
I
double
took the same pay
impounded.
cut as the employees last year, and along with the department heads, they were not compensated for the closure, and they were required to use leave time.
But the employees were
The
compensated.
employees were given that.
There was a difference between the two.
In addition to that, I'm not also entitled to merit adjustments as the employees are. I'm flat rated.
And our budget this year isn't balanced, obviously. We have a $1.7 million deficit starting out, and I believe we lost another $340,000 to the state right when they adopted their budget. Plus, unfortunately, redevelopment, would they take that away, is, another huge chunk of money, $2 million or so, that helps offset some of the departments. So it's a bleak situation, to say the least. But as the city manager did say, we try to focus on maintaining employees, and we're not laying anybody off this year. So at this time, it's appropriate for the representative from the Non-Sworn Safety Support and General Employees Association to come forward. That's Bonnie Clark.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Bonnie Clark with the San Bernardino Public Employees Association, representing employees of the Non-Sworn Safety Support Unit and the General Unit. The employees of both units clearly understand the financial challenges the city faces over the current fiscal year. The employees also understand the financial challenges the city faced during the past 3 years. Despite the fact that employees from both units have faced financial challenging times personally due to salary cuts, they listen to the budgetary challenges the city is facing. Representatives from both units approach the negotiation table with open ears and the intent to assist the city during these troubled financial times. Employees from both units were willing to pay their portion of the CalPERS retirement and give up other benefits that they had enjoyed for many years. Each unit felt it was evident from the initial meet and confer meeting that the city was not going to change its position. It was also evident to both units from the start that the city's intent was to achieve budgetary savings based on their terms. Each unit met separately with the city in good faith in the hopes of assisting in the financial crisis the city is in. The city rejected all offers presented to them with little to no discussion on counter proposals. Council needs to understand that the issue of impasse could have been avoided if the city would have met these employees halfway. Both bargaining units were simply asking for some guarantee that the city would treat them equitably. The equity assurance from the city was a Me Too clause in the contract. The intent was to guarantee that if any city bargaining unit, group, or individuals who received wage increases, benefit, PERS contributions, deferred compensation, or any other type of financial enhancement during the terms of their individual agreement, the city would apply such increases to the Non-Sworn Safety Support Unit and the General Unit. That any benefit or salary increase that had been previously negotiated for any bargaining unit or individual was exempt from the Me Too clause. We are now before you and are aware that the impasse process will provide you with the opportunity to impose those concessions that the city initially brought to the table. The employees of these units are proud to work for the city of West Covina and feel fortunate to have a job. They are willing to stand by the city and help with the current financial crisis the city is in, but have only asked that they be treated in the same manner that all the bargaining units and individuals have been treated in the past. We ask that you, the City Council, refer this impasse process to the next level, to mediation, to resolve the issue as opposed to having your employees perceive your actions as punitive. Do the right thing for your employees. We feel that we were close to reaching an agreement. Your employees want and have continued to step up during these failing economic times in the interest of assisting the city reach their goal of healthy budgetary levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tui?
I had a quick question of her, if it's possible, Ms. Clark. I believe reading the paper, the Me Too clause in the county of San Bernardino is subject of a lawsuit now because the firefighters of San Bernardino County agreed to pay their own PERS, and they agreed in their contract was a Me Too clause, and now the deputy district attorneys of San Bernardino County are suing the county of San Bernardino because of the Me Too clause. Was the Inland Valley Daily Bulletin correct on that, the story about the Me Too clause being challenged?
That is being challenged, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bachman, this is the opportunity for you to rebut anything that was said.
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time is now appropriate for the City Council to make its final determination on the two associations. We can take them as both at the same time, or we could take them individually. Does the council have a preference? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to make a recommendation to do them both at the same time. Prior to doing that, though, I would like to make some comments. You know, there's not much any of us can say up here. I mean, it's the budget is what it is. We aren't balancing the budget. I mean, we could have gone deeper with cuts. We could have laid off employees and took it down to zero. The $5 million reserve we're going to have at the end of this year is very close to insolvency. That deficit next year with the PERS payment we're going to have to pay is going to be probably as large as it was this year, and it's going to be a challenge next year. You know, my goal was to not lay anybody off. We do talk about equity up here, and regardless of whether there's a Me Too clause or not, you're going to have to judge us next year on whether there is equity. The 3-year contract that was actually, I think, 4 years ago that was adopted by the council has basically bound our hands, and we've tried to discuss with our public safety groups the need for working together, and they've discussed, but we haven't gotten any results from that. So as bad as I think, you know, I feel, and I wish there was a better situation, but there's not a whole lot we can do. We're in a situation where our hands are pretty much tied. So, Councilmember Tu.
I concur with that. I mean, we just discussed upstairs regarding the redevelopment, and if we make the ransom payment, we can continue the redevelopment agency if we pay them $5.9 million this year, which we do not have, to continue it, or they can seize all of our properties, and whatever we're short they can take. So we will be broke instantly from the state of California action. We have to pay January 15th $5.9 million, and we have to agree to do it by October 1st, or they seize all of our assets. So it's a voluntary program that we get to participate in, and we have 60 days before they voluntarily take everything we have, and we're liable for the debt. We can't use redevelopment funds that would normally, they agreed to, that we could use to do projects to pay for the debt we have. We can no longer use based on their argument. We can't even enter into contracts currently on any property owned by the redevelopment agency. So this is unique, and I know we've talked about it. The state of California, Caltrans, is trying to take the front of the mall area where Bob's Big Boy and California Pizza Kitchen is. Even though it's the state of California who wants to take it to widen the freeway, because of the budget and the redevelopment law, we can't negotiate, sell, or give them the property. It's against the law for us to enter a contract with Caltrans because of what the state budget did. Even with us paying the ransom payment, there's a very good chance we're going to be laying off people in the redevelopment agency, real bodies. We're trying to figure out how not to do that. I know that may not be some of the people here, but it's still someone else's family. Someone is potentially in trouble here, and it just keeps on happening. Like Steve said, as soon as the budget was approved, we lost $380,000 in vehicle license fee, and that's not the reduction you received. That's just money they're taking from us. And we just have to go ahead and absorb that cut. You can only absorb so many cuts. The impact of losing the redevelopment agency is around $5.7 million to you employees. that we will have to make up in cuts if we don't agree to the ransom. We're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. It all ends. And I do feel sorry. We are trying our best. I always ask you to judge us we're asking everyone to share the same pain. Everyone needs to pay PERS. We're paying PERS. I know they talk about it all along. I've always taken all the pay cuts. Whatever was given to you, I already took before you got it. No different with PERS. Mine started July 1st, no matter what. That's part of it. And I understand this is not my full-time job. That's no question. We do get paid something up here. And like Fred said, this isn't always the greatest job to have. I know some days you've wanted it. This is one of those days I wish you had it. It's a mixture of goods. We are trying our best, and I'm saying every time we turn a corner, you know, the economy is coming back. We have one auto dealer who is selling nothing. He owns half the auto mall, and he generates very little, if any, in sales tax for us. Our auto dealers alone have we probably lost easily $1 million a year there in revenue, $1 million plus. That's hard to make up, because until you individuals, no different than any other employee in any other group they work for, until you feel comfortable and you're spending money again, we live off of sales tax. So until people are shopping in our malls and buying stuff again, and right now everyone's waiting for the other shoe to drop, they're not spending nothing. And I understand that scenario with all the things. I've known a lot of you for many years, and I know we're always made out like we're the bad people. We've had fun times together doing different things with some of you guys in different functions the city has, and then sometimes we have to do our best to try to keep as many people working and getting as much as they can as possible. And I wish people would understand that we're trying to keep everyone employed as possible. That's not an always easy task. No different, like we always say with our households, when you have to cut back on something, it affects you, and you still have to make the cuts that your kids may think are very important, but in the end, you have to make choices of what you're paying. You're going to make that call, and like I said, that's all we're doing. We're no different. It's on the reverse side. We're trying our best to make sure all of you who we've known for many years, I mean, obviously Steve and I have been up here the longest, during good times and bad times, we've always tried to work. We know a lot of you guys by your first names. On this time, it's probably the bad time to know you, because you guys are upset with us during good times. I mean, I seen Susan today at lunch, and Jan and everyone was just leaving lunch. We're trying our best here, and I just wish people see us that we are trying to have everyone equal. We need everyone to really step up and pay their PERS to help us get through this. And it's not just the employee groups that are up, it's the other 4 employee groups that are not up. They need to come and help us carry the load, because you guys have definitely stepped up, the other 5 groups, and I greatly appreciate that for what you've done.
Any other comments? Councilwoman Armbrust.
You know what I said at the last meeting, I know these are really tough times, and my husband is a firefighter, and I know that we are looking at 9%, and I'm just blessed that he has a job and that we are able to take that money to be able to put back into our retirement that we can get when he does retire. So I know what you guys are going through. I know it's very difficult. My job as a councilwoman is to make sure that we balance the budget, that we make sure that we do what's best for the residents, because they are the taxpayers. I know that all of us are doing extra work. You know, again, it's really difficult, and I'm really sorry for the decision that I'm going to have to make. But I can't make that based on seeing faces and people that I like and know. I have to do what's responsible for the residents. Thank you.
Councilwoman Lane.
Yeah, I just want to thank all of you for coming out tonight and all your comments. I know tonight's really a tough evening. It's tough for all of us as it is for you. But, you know, like we've all said, we're doing our best to do everything to keep everybody employed without layoffs. And it's not easy. And we're really trying. And the state is doing a number on us. But we're fighting back, and we're doing the best we can. Our staff has done a really good job of trying to protect the employment and our workers. You guys do a great job for our community. We are thankful for everything you do. From the bottom of my heart, know that. This is a tough time for everybody. We're all going through it personally. I don't think anybody is escaping this at all. It's just a tough time economically, and you know, I appreciate your understanding and all of your hard work. So thank you for that.
Councilwoman Sanderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank everybody involved in this city, residents, staff members, people out in the audience, and I understand the frustration expressed at the dais tonight. You know, at first I sat up there and go, well, you know, you get more bees, you know, we're more with honey than you do with vinegar kind of situation. But you know what? It's frustrating for all of us, and my heart goes out to everybody because I have a family, and as a 30-year small business owner in the construction field, we have nothing. My family, we work our tails off every day. My husband goes out of town. He's gone all the time. And I know how hard it is. I know it is. It's so difficult to sit up here and just, I want everybody to have their jobs and feed their families and go home and knowing that they can take care of their future too, their retirement. You know, as a business owner, my husband has nothing, you know, as a construction, a business owner. You know how many people, the state of California, and I'm sorry to say, I used to be proud to live in this country and in this state. But the decisions that are being made anymore, I saw a saying the other day, it said the price of freedom has gotten higher, but the quality of it is deteriorating. And you know what? It is. And we have to sit here tonight and make these horrible decisions because the state is taking so much of our money. You know, every time we turn around, and I'm sorry, they're making bad decisions because where are they spending their money? We take cuts. As a council member, I probably make about $1 an hour by the time I spend reading reports and going to special meetings and talking to residents and making all the decisions that I have to make. I can guarantee you we're making cuts. We had a cut just recently of like a lot of money, and that hurt my family. That was money that puts groceries on my table, you know. And I'm hating sitting up here making these kind of decisions for people that I care about that do such a great job in this city. It's sad. And you know, we talked about sales tax that we pay you guys with our, you know, our sales tax. We pay all of us with our sales tax. And you know what? When you start looking deeper and seeing where that money goes, we don't get a whole lot of it. I think it's like really low. It's like 1% or something totally ridiculous. And the state takes and the federal takes. They take so much of it. And you know, I'm like I said, I'm just so sorry. And this is so frustrating. And you guys do mean a lot to the city. You are the hub, the police department, the fire department, and the non-sworn. You guys are the hub of the city, and we wouldn't, I don't know what to do without you, and I want you guys to keep your jobs and feed your families, and I get that. And if there was more that I think this council could do, we would do it. So, you know, with that, I just want to say, you know, we have to stick this out, and hopefully we can start going after the state for taking our monies. You know, I think that's honestly my next step. We've been talking about it. I know the mayor has asked for a report of all the stuff that the state has done to us recently. And I think what we need to do as a council and other cities is get together and start saying, look, you got to stop raiding from us. You got to stop bullying us. You know, it's like there was something we were talking about earlier about how they are wanting you to pay something, and if you don't, or you can't go after them, or they're going to like blackball you kind of thing. I mean, it's just insanity. So again, with that, I'm going to be with my colleagues tonight in hopes that we can just make it through this and help our businesses and just move forward. And thank you again, everybody, for being involved.
Mayor Pro Tem Tui.
I want to make sure they know, because people attacked Andy. I don't always agree with him. Our city manager, we have our own issues, and you will this in the general course of business, but you mentioned his salary, and I forgot which employee said it. Mentioned his salary. He is not even the highest paid employee in the city of West Covina with his cut. Okay? The three highest paid employees in our city, none of them are directors, by the way. They're employees. Okay? Andy's third or fourth on the list, even though he's the city manager. Okay? Make sure you understand that. Okay? The top five, one's the city manager, The highest paid police officer in our city is not the chief, and the highest paid firefighter is not the fire chief. Those are facts. Okay? And the city manager is not the highest paid. Other people are.
Okay, at this time, with regards to the non-sworn safety support and the General Employees Association, City Council has the following options. Number 1, impose the city's last best and final offer as recommended by city staff. Number 2, agree with the association's last offer. Number 3, refer the matter back to the city manager for mediation. Number 4, grant the city's bargaining team additional authority and go back to the bargaining table. Number 5, do nothing and allow the status quo to continue. Do I have a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion to impose the city's last best and final offer as recommended by city staff.
I'll second.
Moved in second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Do we need to have the resolution? No.
Yes.
We do? Okay. Item 14 is the both resolutions. Okay, and I'll take the following action. We acknowledge the receipt of the letters from the city manager declaring impasse with the general and non-sworn safety support employees, and call for the resolutions imposing.
Motion to have a heading of the resolutions.
First resolution is number 201147, a resolution of the City Council of the City of West Covina, California, imposing changes to the terms and conditions of employment for the period of July 1 of 2011 through June 30th, 2012 on employees represented by the Non-Sworn Safety Support Employees Association. Second resolution, 201148, a resolution of the City Council of the City of West Covina, California, imposing changes to the terms and conditions of employment for the period of July 1, 2011 through June 30th, 2012 on employees represented by the General Employees Association.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Tui. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 5-0. AB 1234, any council member reports or anything to report?
Mr. Mayor, we have item number 11.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Let's go back to item number 11. Okay.
I pulled it, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a report on this?
Mr. Bachman?
This item here is related to the selection of an underwriter. The issue is the county, the city, when they formed one of the redevelopment project areas, entered into a tax sharing agreement with the County of Los Angeles. Over the first 20 years of the project, the county would defer half of its tax increment that it was to receive from that project area. At the end of the 20 years, that amount would take the form of a loan and would need to be repaid to the county. The outstanding amount is roughly $9.6 million with interest earned, or which has accrued over the last year. It's roughly $10.3 million that is currently owed to the County of Los Angeles. It earns interest at the rate of 7% and will essentially be paid from all tax increment revenues after deducting for pass-throughs and the housing set-aside. So essentially it eats up all the tax increment from that one project area, which is the area that contains the former BKK landfill site, Big League Dreams, the Heights shopping center, and the future parcels that are projected to be developed in that area. It's grown to be a fairly significant project area, but a lot of the tax increment over the next number of years will go to repaying the county debt. In order to help with the CDC's cash flow, the city has looked at issuing bonds to stretch out the repayment over a longer period of time, thereby lessening the burden in the earlier years to repay that debt. Back in December, the city council has previously approved the retention of Fulbright and Jaworski as a bond counsel for this bond issue, and they also hired the firm of Urban Futures to act as financial advisor on this bond issue. We've kind of set this issue aside for the past 6 months as the bond market was pretty rough given much of the uncertainty going on at the state level and with the uncertainty over the future of redevelopment agencies in general. A lot of that is turned around. There have been some bond issues that have been done, and we've been working with our financial advisor to bring the last member of the team on board, which is the underwriting firm. We solicited proposals from, I believe it was 9 firms total. 6 of those firms did respond with bids. The Urban Futures, the city's financial advisor, evaluated those bids, made a recommendation on those bids. They took the 6 firms and then grouped them into who they determined to be the top 3 firms, which were Wedbush Securities, Stone & Youngberg, and Piper Jaffray. Once they narrowed it down to the top 3 firms, they then further analyzed those 3 firms and determined that their recommendation was to retain the firm of Stone & Youngberg to be hired as the city's underwriter. And one of the big reasons for that, and all those 3 firms are capable firms, but Stone & Youngberg has issued far more redevelopment tax allocation bonds in the last 6 months. And the last 6 months has been a very challenging time in the redevelopment, in the bond market in general, but redevelopment even more specifically. They've developed a pretty good niche for tax allocation bonds, both on the taxable side and the tax exempt side. They've issued about 3 times as many redevelopment tax allocation bonds as the 2 other top firms that were considered. What that means is they believe that that'll allow them to market the bonds better at a better cost for the city. So based on that, Urban Futures recommended Stone & Youngberg. Finance staff also agrees with that recommendation and fully supports it. That is my comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Seeing none. Oh, Councilmember
No,
Chu.
not questions. I'm ready to talk.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I first wanted to say I have had issues. I think a lot of the things, and I've seen it in the graffiti contract and the way we do stuff, we favor the big guys, and that's how we do it. So the other size companies that are still capable really are never allowed to because it's based on sheer size. This happened also at the Sand District where I had a lot of problems with it because some of the larger firms, and the largest firm around, or some of the larger firms around, isn't even here, but they have the bonding capacity beyond most of these companies here, which is Citibank. You can always pick the giant players, or you can give other people who have the financial wherewithal also chances. And I think the RFPs, when they went out, does give us the ability to pick and negotiate the deal. So I would be in favor of picking Cabrera Capital, and they were the 4th place finisher, and negotiating with them to do it for Wedbush Securities, who the staff did not pick the lowest bidder here. But I would be in favor of supporting. I make a motion to support Cabrera Capital with negotiating their fee to be what Wedbush Securities is and agree to.
I'll second it.
Moved in second.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I think there is a, if I understand the motion, it's to select that firm, but to negotiate a lower price with them.
That was in the RFP.
Okay.
At that, that's my knowledge that that could be done.
You can have the ability to dictate whatever you wish. We can go back and negotiate it with them.
Okay, thank you.
That's not going to create any liability for us?
No.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Next item on the agenda is
1, 2, 3, 4.
yeah, council member comments. Are there any comments? AB 1, 2, 3, 4 reports. No comments. No AB 1, 2, 3, 4 reports. Let me just make a couple comments. We did have some grand openings in the past couple weeks. I attended grand opening for ITT Institute on Saturday, or actually on Friday, I believe it was, yeah, Friday. They have their own campus here in the city, and I was very impressed with the leadership there, and had a nice little welcome to the city ceremony. We also opened a Chronic Taco over at the mall and welcome them in along with some other restaurants. Is Chris Chunk still here? Maybe somebody else here can remember the rest of the restaurants. It was kind of nice to
We
hear.
have five guys. Go ahead.
I was going to say Pacific Grill is coming up.
Pacific Grill is over at
For the
Eastland.
fish, it's over at the Eastland, and I think that is July 21st? July 27th, and that's 11 a.m. That's open to the public.
But at East or at Fashion Plaza, H&M has just opened, and next door, Forever 21, we have Lee's Sandwiches, Five Guys Hamburgers, Chronic Taco, Lazy Dog Cafe at Dylan's Irish Pub, Gold's Gym, and Nordstrom's Rack opening in the next 2 weeks. Some have already opened. And PetSmart's at the other one. PetSmart, Dollar Tree, Pacific Grill. Those are brand new stores, and 4 new stores opening up in the Holiday Video facility over the next 2 months. We have a lot of new businesses coming. And at the lakes.
Yeah, at the lakes we have
Toys R Us, Babies R Us, Marshalls, Marshalls, I mean Michael's, I'm sorry. And then you have the Country Club also.
Yeah.
Having some openings.
So kind of exciting. Okay, we have a few adjournments tonight. First, retired West Covina police officer Steve Cook and retired West Covina firefighter Ray Moody. Ray was a firefighter, I believe, from like 64 to 94. So our condolences to their families. Our thoughts and prayers are both with the Cook and Moody families, and we'll adjourn in their memory tonight. Also, in memory of Romalda Torres, the sister of Community Services Commissioner Betty Valles. So we'll adjourn in memory of all 3 of those.
If I could also make an adjournment.
Sure.
Julie McFadden, married name Marquez, was a lifelong resident here. Her family still lives here, and she passed away at the age of 42 from cancer. So we can also adjourn in Julie Marquez's name.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, it's appropriate also to include adjourning the special meeting with the motion.
Okay. As those names are read, we'll adjourn the special meeting at the same time as the council meeting. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.